Welcome to another episode of Jim Merritt's Indiana. Today we're going to explore sexual abuse of children and child exploitation. This morning, I'm visiting kNot Today. Emma Marsh, Executive Director of kNot Today, is going to be speaking to us about all the great things about their organization. The first thing we want to talk about is the logo. I am so impressed with it. Describe to me, Emma, what this all means.
Thank you so much for having me today. The logo of kNot Today, you'll notice it's a lowercase k, and that stands for the vulnerability of kids. They're small and they need our protection. And we say not today or ever, because no child should be sexually abused or exploited, not today or ever. And then we've got the knot, and that represents how we all need to be tied to one mission, which is protecting children. And at kNot Today, we tie prevention efforts together to make sure we're stopping abuse before it begins.
Give me a little history about kNot Today. It's obviously an organization that is growing. Indianapolis, now in North Carolina.
Yes. So we were founded about 5.5 years ago by former Colts head coach Frank Reich and his wife Linda. And as they moved coast to coast with his job in the NFL, they found that child sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking were happening in every community in which they lived and worked. Mm-hmm. And so they were really called to make a difference when they landed here in Indianapolis.
Well, the sexual abuse of children is something that I've always been concerned about, and that's a focus of your organization, isn't it?
Yes. So we really look at sexual abuse prevention as an ultimate form of trafficking prevention. We know trafficking is a really hot button issue, and the media tends to really gravitate towards those stories. Yes, it is absolutely happening here. It's absolutely devastating. But sexual abuse and online exploitation of children is occurring at much higher rates than you might think.
One of the parts of our podcast that we like to do is allow our guests to talk to the camera, and you know what you want the viewer, the listener, to take away from this interview.
Yeah, I appreciate that opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's rare that we have this opportunity to talk directly to the public about what this issue looks like. Child sexual abuse is on par with hunger in the nation. It's also it exceeds poverty rates in the United States. So we're looking at 22% of children are affected by sexual abuse or online exploitation. Mm-hmm. We do know that there are some risk factors associated with it, especially when we look at human trafficking. We see that, living in poverty, having parents with substance use disorders can contribute to a child being trafficked during their lifetime. Additionally, when we look at sexual abuse and online exploitation, we look at families who might be a one-parent household, children who have unprecedented access to the internet, unsupervised. That can be a risk factor as well. It's
an issue I want to learn more about, and that's why Jim Merritt's Indiana is here today in Indianapolis. Are we talking about strangers? I've always heard about stranger danger, or is it a family member?
Great question. And I'll hit two sides of this coin. I want to say sexual abuse occurs 90% of the time. It's someone the child knows, loves, and trusts. It's someone who has access to that child, whether they be a coach, a family member, a community member. More often than not, it's someone known to the child. When we look at human trafficking, traffickers often they start a romantic relationship with the child, or they start offering that child a life that they wouldn't otherwise have. For example, I saw your TikTok video and you're really talented and beautiful and I think you could make it as an influencer. Those are some tactics that we're seeing traffickers use to exploit children online to then get them in person.
Well, we talked about the how and the why, but where is this happening? Is it happening everywhere?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Government really doesn't do a good job of prevention. And it's programs such as yours that really have to prevent problems from happening. Talk to us a little bit about kNot Today in the prevention mode.
Absolutely. So Not Today is focused on getting ahead of abuse before it begins, something that is 100% possible with the right investment, and we believe that everyone should be investing in our children in this way. There are a few key ways that folks can get involved in preventing child sexual abuse. First and foremost, parents need to be talking to their children. They need to be having open and honest conversations about their body parts. Using anatomically correct terms for body parts is one of the best things that parents can do. There was a recent study actually that showed that people who were offending against children were less likely to choose a victim that knew their body parts, because it showed that the parents were having conversations with that child. So it's a really powerful, easy tool for parents to use to protect their own children. They also need to be looking at their phones. If you bought the phone for your child, it is just as much your phone as it is theirs. Any digital device in the hands of a child needs to be monitored. Internet use needs to be restricted, and you need to be having conversations about what your child's doing online. And you mentioned government. One thing that Indiana has done that is a huge benefit to our children is passing a mandate that every K through 12 student in the state of Indiana should receive child abuse prevention education annually. This education is absolutely critical, not only in preventing abuse before it begins, but also in identifying children who have experienced sexual abuse and making sure that they get access to services sooner. The average age of disclosure of sexual abuse is 52 years old. This is something that folks really hang on to for a very long time. And if we can start changing the norms and changing how society thinks about this issue so that children feel comfortable bringing this up sooner, we can create a much healthier, well-adjusted community.
Yeah, a safer community.
A safer community, absolutely.
You know, Emma, it always comes down to the dollar and funding. How does that work with Not Today?
Yeah, great question. So oftentimes we see that prevention is lowest on the totem pole in terms of funding, and you mentioned this earlier as well. So what we see is that it costs about $4 to $6 per student to make sure that children are educated on child abuse and sexual abuse education in this state. So we really are leaning on corporate partners, individuals, as well as government to help invest in our children. We know that every dollar spent on prevention has a greater return than when we are treating the problem on the back end. So we really want to make that investment and convince others around us that it's a worthwhile investment to protect our children's futures.
You know, Emma, sometimes statistics paint the picture. Talk to our audience a little bit about the statistics and Not Today itself.
Yeah, so this is an issue that unfortunately is beating out hunger and poverty in the United States. And you can imagine the investment that those two things are getting and how little we talk about child sexual abuse and exploitation. It's 1 in 5 children who are affected by some type of sexual abuse or online exploitation. That is a staggering number, and I hope that rattles everyone. It's happening everywhere. It's happening in every neighborhood and every socioeconomic status. This issue knows no bounds, and it's something that we have to change, because for most survivors, it's a secret that they're holding on to for many decades. Mm-hmm. And we have to change that narrative and make sure that people feel comfortable talking about child sexual abuse. And it's something that's absolutely preventable. We can absolutely invest in prevention and make sure that we are protecting children before this begins.
Not Today. You know, with Jim Merritt's Indiana, we talk a lot about mental health. Mental health is health, and it all has to work together. This organization is something that I'm going to learn more about. We are going to have another episode. And Emma Marsh, thank you very much for being with us today. I look forward to bowling with you in late August. And you are watching another episode of Jim Merritt's Indiana.